Meeting of the Parks and Rec Commission to order. Diane, would you please call roll?
Yes, Commissioner Gibson,
Present.
Commissioner McEwen,
Here.
Commissioner Crampton,
Here.
Commissioner McCarthy,
Present.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Here.
and Commissioner Spangler.
Here.
All right, the first thing on our agenda is a presentation on the status of pickleball and tennis at Via Pariso Park. Shannon, you're going to do the presentation?
Yes, Madam Chair, I will do the presentation, but we're just going to give Nate a second to cue that up. He's got 3 presentations this evening, so there's going to be a little bit of a transition between each one.
And should we double check that we're recording and everything?
Yep. So
Great.
that's promising. It doesn't say. Nate, does it look good on all of your ends?
Yes, everything looks good.
Okay, thank you. So we are here for an update on the status of pickleball and tennis at Via Pariso Park. A lot has been happening since we last reviewed this in September, I believe. So next slide. So we're going to review what happened in September, allow for any public comment online or in person, and then we have opportunities if you guys have any questions. So we have just a little bit of a history. We have installed blended lines and established priority times, and that was all to limit the conflict between pickleball and tennis. We also posted signage encouraging the use of quiet pickleball equipment and encourage neighbors and pickleball players to work towards a resolution through city-supported mediation. Next slide. We actually held mediation. There were 3 sessions of mediation held in January and February 2022. So this included a mediator from the Mandel Gisnet Center for Conflict Management. Myself, I attended as a staff person. We had 3 members of the Monterey Vista Neighborhood Association representing the neighborhood. We also had 3 Monterey Bay Pickleball Club members who actually happened to also live in the Monterey Vista neighborhood. We developed a proposed pickleball tennis pilot program. Groups were ultimately unable to gain a consensus from both organizations when they went back to their groups for a vote. We came very, very close. There was just one thing that they could not completely agree on. But the city has decided to move forward with the 3-month pilot program beginning May 2nd. So the pilot program, which is the next slide, is going to begin. It's actually May 2nd. May 2nd is a Monday. So we are going to dedicate 1 court to tennis. We're going to dedicate 1 court to pickleball at Via Pariso, which actually is 2 pickleball nets and 2 pickleball courts, because you can fit 2 pickleball courts on 1 tennis court. And we will remove all the priority hours. This will be self-monitored by the players, and it will be a 3-month program, which will give us a very good idea of what is happening in that park for May, June, and July. We also operate our playground program there during the months of June and July. So we'll get to see a very good idea of what happens when the weather is nice, when we have a playground program happening, we have parents dropping off and picking up. And then we also would have basically, as long as the park is open, pickleball play or tennis play. There would be priority times on each of those courts. So otherwise all the signage will stay the same. We'll have quiet pickleball equipment signage. We'll still have the time limit signage that's already been established for singles and doubles, which is 1 hour for singles and 1.5 hours for doubles. If no one is waiting, you can continue to play until others arrive. So that is the trial program that we are going to begin May 2nd. We'll put signage up that will encourage people to email us with any comments or concerns they have about this pilot program. Next slide. So what's next? We are going to evaluate the success of the trial program after 3 months and consider making those changes permanent. We are going to encourage stakeholders to continue research and pursue funding for dedicated courts, which you'll hear more about later today with the NCIP projects. We want to find a balance and a peaceful coexistence with neighbors, tennis, and pickleball players. And hopefully we will come to a nice resolution that makes everyone happy, but keep pickleball as a part of the Pariso Park, but just manage it a little bit better, and hopefully make sure the tennis players don't feel like they're losing anything either in this whole process. So there's one other thing I'm going to show you. I'm going to switch over to our display here. Oh, sorry. Diane beat me to it, and then I pushed button again. So this is just kind of a very rough rendering of what it is. Well, it's actually a duplicate. So here's the restrooms right on this side. The parking lot is on this side. The court closest to the restrooms will be the dedicated pickleball court, and the court closest to the parking lot will be the dedicated tennis court. And because there are blended lines and they're permanently on the courts at this time, there's no way to like remove those lines during the trial program. It's just going to be self-monitored. So this is what the courts will look like. There will be dedicated nets out. They won't have the ability to put more than 2 nets out. But hopefully people will follow the guidelines, limit pickleball to the court closest to the restrooms and tennis to the court closest to the parking lot. And then, like I said, if this ends up being a successful trial program, the possibility of making this a permanent project, we would bring that back to PRC at that time. And when we did that, we would look at resurfacing all of the courts, removing the blended lines, having a dedicated striped pickleball courts, because we've had 2, a dedicated tennis court, and then we would also have stationary nets for pickleball and potentially a fence between the 2 courts to kind of keep the balls in play. So that is the proposed project, but again, we have to really take public comments and input from the community and the neighbors, and we feel like this is the best way for everyone to have a chance to say what they appreciate or not appreciate about this. At least it's moving forward in some way. So that is actually it for the presentation. We can go ahead and switch to public comments, I think, and then
So public comments now on the presentation? Is there anyone online, Nate?
The City of Monterey is committed to the safe attendance of its public meetings. Masks are recommended for all who attend in person, regardless of vaccination status, except for those who are younger than 2 years old or who have a medical condition that prevents them from wearing a mask. We ask that attendees also please turn off your phones or devices while you're in the council chambers to prevent any potential feedback. The City of Monterey seeks to continue to offer virtual methods for public participation in its meetings. If you are not joining us in person in the council chambers, there are 2 ways to virtually participate in tonight's meeting. You may join the meeting directly on Zoom Gov using the Zoom app, and you can also call into the Zoom meeting. To join a meeting on Zoom on your computer, smartphone, or telephone, use the link or phone number on the agenda at isearchmonterey.org. Since the meeting has started, you'll find the agenda under the Recent tab. To call into the Zoom meeting, dial toll-free 833-568-8864. Then enter meeting ID 160-566-3903#. And if prompted to enter a participant ID, press pound again. Detailed instructions on using Zoom are available at monterey.org/public-meetings. To make a public comment using the Zoom app, you can virtually raise your hand by pressing the raise hand button on the bottom of your screen. If you dialed in by phone, raise your hand by dialing *9. Then to unmute yourself, dial *6. You must do both. Public commenters will be muted until it is their turn to speak. I will call on each public speaker in the order of their hands raised. Please stay within the time limit that we have established for today's meeting, which will be shown using a countdown timer on the screen. If you are connected live on Zoom, the timer will be accurate with no delay. Today's meeting is also streamed live on the city's YouTube account, which is accessible at youtube.com/City of Monterey with approximately 10-second delay, and on Comcast channel 25 with up to a 90-second delay. As always, we look forward to receiving your public comment. If we have anyone in the council chamber that would like to make a public comment, please come to the lectern to give us your comment about the pickleball presentation.
Nate, is there no one on the line?
So if there's no one with public comment in the council chambers, let me look to see if we have anybody here online that would like to make a public comment. Yes, we have one public commenter. John, I will go ahead and unmute you. If you can unmute yourself now, and you should be up. There you go.
Good evening. My name's John Sovereign. I'm a resident of Monterey and Monterey Vista neighborhood. I was a participant in the mediation along with Shannon, and I want to just come out and voice my support for the proposal. I think we are looking forward to this fall when we see the potential for Via Pariso to host 2 pickleball courts with permanent nets, replacing the temporary nets currently used. Other than discouraging large crowds from visiting the park, there's little gain in the Solomon-like proposal to remove the mixed lines for both tennis and pickleball that were painted on those courts in 2017. Pickleballers and tennis players will no longer have to share a small scrap of concrete, but both lose half their respective court capacity. That said, this is the best proposal that we've been able to come up with as a community, and I urge your support. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. If there's no one else, public comments are now closed.
I do have another public comment.
All right, okay, let's hear it.
Jean Rash, go ahead and unmute yourself and you can give us your public comment. Go right in.
I wanted to thank the city for their support of the negotiations and their financial support to the Mandel Gisnet Center and to the community members who participated. And I agree with John that this is the best compromise we can get to have tennis accessible and have pickleball accessible without the priority hours, which tended to dominate both courts at pickleball time. So I think we'll see how the neighbors respond and how the pickleballers respond, how the tennis people respond, and hope that we have a compatible proposal to integrate pickleball and move forward with sharing our community asset of Via Pariso Park. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Are there any other public comments?
We have no other public comment on this item.
Public comments are now closed. Do commissioners have any comments? We don't have it on this agenda, but I just wanted to make sure. I do want to thank Shannon on behalf of the commissioners for taking part in those mediation sessions.
Thank you.
It's such a relief to have gotten to this happier place. Thank you.
And we can take comments from any of the commissioners who have anything. It
Right.
looks like
I
Sid
think
might
Sid
have
has a-
something.
Yeah.
My question is, after 3 months, what do we hope to have learned or gleaned from this? And what is the next step after 3 months? Are we just going to renew 3 months after 3 months, or what is the project here?
So we hope that, if this pilot program is successful, that we can move forward with potentially looking at some funding sources for a permanent, make these change permanent. And there is actually an NCIP project for this as well, to remove the blended lines from one court. And in looking at the courts with Louis Marcuso, they are in need of resurfacing. So the idea would be to resurface the entire court and then put down the correct lines for tennis and pickleball, and bring that full project with a better rendering and layout to PRC for review. If we don't hear too many issues or complaints from the pilot program.
Can I ask what was the one thing that did not get solved in the mediation?
Sure. One of the groups just preferred to just go ahead and just make the changes permanent.
Okay.
Like, well, we do really need to get some public comment just to see how that's going to go.
Any other comments from commissioners? If not, we'll move on to the second presentation on the status of disc golf.
Good evening, Madam Chairperson and Commissioners. Tonight I have a brief presentation describing a partnership for disc golf at Ryan Ranch with funding for ADA improvements and a use agreement that includes maintenance support. Next slide. The Monterey Stinging Jellies Disc Golf Club has a history of providing disc golf facilities and activities at Ryan Ranch, and the city has formalized an agreement with the club to provide disc golf to the community. Next. For this public nonprofit partnership, the club will provide funding for construction for ADA improvements, disc golf amenities, and general maintenance. The current estimate for the project from the city's contractor is approximately $39,687. The construction project will include a concrete accessible parking stall with striping, accessible pathway to the first tee, and an ADA portable restroom with hand washing station and vanity screen. The course will also include 30 tee pads and signs and 30 movable baskets. While in compliance with the mitigated negative declaration measures, the club maintenance efforts will include course maintenance such as mowing, trimming, and litter abatement, maintaining infrastructure and golf amenities such as baskets, tees, and signage, as well as general maintenance that includes the ADA restroom. Next steps. The preliminary bid for the project was $35,100. However, as time passed during our negotiations, the cost of the project increased to $39,687. So staff is going to council on April 19th to request approval to increase the CIP appropriation by $8,555 to account for the new project cost plus a 10% contingency. So the total estimated cost with contingency is $43,655. Once approved by the council, the city can accept the funds from the Monterey Stinging Jellies Disc Golf Club, and construction is scheduled to break ground the first week in May. We'll then open the course once the improvements are complete. In the meantime, the club has already started with maintenance projects such as mowing and removing the old outhouse structure. This is an exciting progress, and we are looking forward to our continued partnership with the Monterey Stinging Jellies. And this concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
That's a great conclusion.
Yeah.
Yeah, finally letting it back on. That's perfect. So we should ask for public comments.
Again, if there's anyone in the council chamber that would like to make a public comment on the disc golf presentation, please approach the lectern. There's no public comment in the council chambers. Let me see if there's anyone online. We have no We have one public comment. Chad, let me unmute you, and if you can unmute yourself and you can give us your public comment.
Hi, my name's Chad Guile. I'm the president of the Monterey Stinging Jellies Disc Golf Club. And I just wanted to say thank you to Karen for all of her hard work in this project. It's been ongoing for about the last 3 years, and to see the end here really close is really exciting. So thank you to Karen. Thank you to all the city employees who have worked on this project, and we look forward as a club to this partnership. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
For participating in the process. We really appreciate that.
We have no other public comment on this item.
Okay, public comments are now closed. Any commissioner comments?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to say, I think it's really inspirational that the club hung in there for 3 years. And I love the energy and passion they show for their sport. So I just think it's wonderful. Thank you for sharing the update tonight.
Great. Any other comments? If not, we'll move to approval of minutes.
Hold on.
All right, sorry. It's hard, you know, I can't see all of you at once. That's the problem.
This is Dennis. Yeah, I managed to learn how to raise my hand on the screen, so I want to let everybody know that's a wonderful accomplishment by me. But anyway, the bottom line is I didn't understand, and it's been a while. I did not understand the relationship of the CIP program funding in relationship to the Jellies putting up, you know, the $39,000, and just a short explanation, if someone could, what's the relationship of those two? Am I missing something?
No, and we have an engineer in the audience, so if I answer incorrectly, he can let me know. But my understanding is in order for the city to accept the funds from the disc golf club, we have to have like an account to put that into. And in order that we have to appropriate that amount of money to the budget. So the council has to appropriate that money to the budget, the CIP budget, but they have the understanding that it's being reimbursed by the club, if that makes sense.
Okay, that helps. Thanks.
Sure.
And something very similar was done when Monterey High School did solicit a field for artificial turf. That was the first time I think we accepted funds from another group. And so we're just continuing with that.
Thank you.
Okay. So let's move on to approval of minutes. These are the minutes from Wednesday, March 9th. Are there any questions or comments? Would someone like to make a motion to approve?
I move to approve.
Is there a
I
second? Oh, said second. All those in favor?
I
Aye. Opposed? No. Okay. Now it's time for public comments. You can address the Parks and Recreation Commission on any item that is not on the agenda. And Nate, could you remind them that they have 3 minutes to talk? Are there no public comments?
I apologize. If anyone in the council chamber would like to make a public comment, please approach the lectern. Again, we have a 3-minute time limit for general public comment. There's no one in the council chamber that has general public comment. Let me see if we have anyone online. We have no general public comment online as well.
Okay, public comments are now closed. Now we're moving on to the Parks and Recreation related submitted neighborhood and a community improvement program project request.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'd like to introduce Tom Hardy, who is our senior engineer and NCIP coordinator. He's here to kind of get us up to date on NCIP. It's been an interesting couple of years, thanks to the pandemic and all of our budgeting challenges. And so he's going to do his best to update us on any outstanding program proposals, I guess, or project proposals through NCIP to kind of refresh our memories from over the years and get your insight. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Take it away, Tom.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair and chairpersons. This is just a quick run through of the project. The NCIP program was paused back at the beginning of the pandemic. The city council defunded a number of projects, actually about 120 projects. And we are in the process of oh, it's on. Is that better? Okay. I think I'm gonna just speak closer. So we're in the process of getting those 120 projects back before the NTIP committee, so we can review them and rank them against the projects that are that have been submitted since then. So if we go to the next slide, I wanted to provide just a real basic. We have like a process that we go through every year, and probably most of you are familiar with it. We have received nominations for projects this year, and we've screened out duplicates and projects that aren't, well, let's say that could be funded otherwise. NCIP program is intended to be capital improvement projects, so something physical that's constructed. So a lot of maintenance projects or things like that do not qualify for funding under NCIP. So we've gone through that process. Right now, next week on Thursday, we'll be beginning to review the projects. The committee will look at each of there's 205 projects in total, and we'll be reviewing each one of those to refresh the committee's memory of what the project involves and discuss the new ones as well. So if we could go to the next slide. This is just kind of a summary of our schedule over the next couple of months. We're right before April 21st is our next meeting. That's the one highlighted in yellow there. We'll get public comments beginning May 19th. And we have a couple of meetings for that. And then on June 16th, the NCIP committee will vote on all of the projects. They'll become prioritized based on the voting. And then we will be back here on August 10th to your meeting to present the projects that we have as the NCIP committee will be recommending to City Council to be funded. And that will happen in September on the 20th at this point. Next slide, please. So generally this year we have 3 different categories of projects. So there were about 120 projects that were defunded in 2020 when council used the money to continue providing the essential city services during the pandemic. There were projects that were nominated in 2020. So right at the beginning in January, the projects were nominated. We screened them, but we never had a chance to discuss them because the program was, well, everything got kind of stalled at that point. And then there are the projects that were nominated this year. We have about 20 of those. Next slide, please. So here we go. Here's my numbers. I'm a numbers guy. There are 120 projects that were defunded, 32 that are parks related. There were 65 projects nominated in 2020, and 30 of those are parks related. And then this year, there are 20 projects that were nominated. 5 of them are related to parks. The projects that we will be reviewing very quickly tonight, just to make everyone aware of what they are, will be the 2 or the 30 plus the 5. So the ones that were nominated, but they're not, you have not seen them yet. So we're bringing the new projects before you. So there were 30 of them that were submitted in 2020 that you have not seen yet. And there's 5 that were submitted this year that you haven't seen yet. So that's what we're going to focus on tonight. The other 32 you have seen, they were actually funded projects from as back as far, I think 2007 was the furthest one. So they're in, but we're not going to discuss them tonight, but I'd be happy to answer any questions if you remember any of them. I can't remember that far. Next slide, please. The first one, and we break it down, our program is designed by neighborhood in the city. So we just go alphabetically by neighborhood. And so the first project that we're going through this year that you have not seen yet was nominated in 2020. This is Davi Trail Improvements. There are projects that you have seen before that it was broken down into, can't really see this, it looks like 6 different sections. There was the design plan was completed or is almost complete at this point. That was submitted earlier. The phase 1 project was the improvements at the Monterey Avenue for the ADA and accessibility concerns. And then this would be the phase 2 portion of the project. So all of the projects will be returning to NCIP, and we'll see which ones are funded when something happens after June and we voted. I'll be back to tell you which ones those are. Next slide, please. Unless there are any questions. If there's questions, please just interrupt me because I'll try and get through this quickly.
Was the design phases somewhat completed, you said?
Correct.
How about the phase 1? I thought that was a defunded project.
It is a defunded, as was the design as well, was also defunded. So I believe we're very close to the end of that. I think we're doing some biological monitoring for the permitting before we begin construction on that. So we'll have to check in on the design. If that is voted to be refunded and city council approves funding for it, we'll continue with the design and then we can begin construction again for the projects. So
each one of those projects that were already funded are going to be reevaluated.
correct, that's correct. Yes.
Okay.
We're trying to identify the best projects of all of the 205 that we have and fund those this year with the funding that is available, which is not $9.3 million. It's about half that. Well, it's about, we've heard $4 million is the estimate. So there are a lot of projects that won't be funded this year.
So it's probably more likely that you would like to do phase 1 before phase 2.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes. And we would like to do the design potentially before even phase 1. So I think that's very close, but we're in the process now of going through and getting ready for just seeing where all the projects are. So that's taken quite a while.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Next slide. This one was nominated this year. This is on El Dorado. There's a large tree, and it's kind of hard to see in this slide, but right behind that yellow sign there is like a giant eucalyptus tree. There's a little map on the left that's also hard to see, but this is between Alta Mesa Drive on the left side and right at the bottom right-hand corner of the map is Iris Canyon. So it's in between there. It's kind of on the top of the hill. As you drive by, you can't miss it. This is just a project. It's been determined to be a valid project. It will be an expensive tree to remove. I think it's probably 6 to 8 feet, maybe even larger in diameter at the base. It's a eucalyptus tree, and there's a lot of leaves that come down. So one of the neighbors, I believe, was the person who nominated this project this year. Next slide, please. And at Casanova Oak Knoll Park in 2020, there was a nomination to have this piece of play equipment installed. I guess the children of the neighborhood were looking for something that was a little bit older than what's at the playground, is what the project description said. And so this was the piece that the children actually identified as something that they would like installed there. And so we had actually, I should have mentioned right at the beginning that we've met with Karen and Louis Marcuzzo just to go over all the projects to see which ones are there. And this is one that both of them were familiar with from back then. So next slide, please. The Deerflats bench renovation. So this is one that was a project several years ago. I think the benches were installed in between 2017 and 2020. But the person who proposed it, they were hoping that the benches would be installed to face the field, and they got installed facing the street. So there's a project submitted which we've determined to be a valid project to reverse the direction of the benches, and that's really all that one is. Next slide. There are two projects. There's a bunch of projects in Del Monte Beach neighborhood for dune restoration and sign repair. There are two here. The one was submitted in 2020 and not acted upon, and one was submitted this year, just again to repair the fence and signage along the dunes there. And then we can go to the next slide, which is, I guess, not really related, but it's in the same area. It's for the boardwalk replacement. There are sections of the boardwalk that need repair, and this, I've been told, has been like an ongoing thing that the neighborhood has requested from Parks and Rec to have just maintained, and they get some money every year is requested anyway. And so they're requesting funding again. So there are right now, there's 4 separate projects that were submitted for that. And we're going to try and get them to lump it into one. So when I come back in August, I will tell you what happens with that one. Next slide, please. Okay, now moving over to Del Monte Grove, Laguna Grande. At Laguna Grande Park, someone has proposed parking lot lighting. These would be like a bollard style lighting that is kind of hard to see in the photo here, but the intent would just be to provide a little bit of light in the parking lot in the evenings there. And next slide. Thank you. This is for signage. Someone who submitted the project would like some of the rules to be spelled out a little more visibly for people who are visiting the park. Next slide, please. This one is for taller fencing at the soccer field. Apparently, when the ball goes into the Laguna Grande, sometimes someone will go in for a swim and gets a little extra exercise fishing the ball back. So trying to prevent that, and the neighbors as well on the right-hand side in this photo are just wanting something that can prevent some of the balls from ending up in their backyard. Next slide. This is one of 2 projects that were submitted for expression swings. And you can kind of see on the bottom, it's like it's a double swing where like 2 people can face each other and swing at the same time. This one is for Dennis the Menace, was submitted in 2020 and not acted on. Next slide. Here's one that was also submitted in 2020 for modernization of the Sportscenter pool. Next slide, please. There was a project submitted for a shade structure at El Estero Park in the barbecue area. And next slide, thanks. And then Jack's Park, infield turf, and I believe that's a artificial turf that's been requested, but right now that's, as you can sort of see, this was from Street View. That's the best photo I could get of that. And thank you. The El Estero Park, the playground, the play equipment is old over here. We heard it's like some of the oldest in the city. So this is just to upgrade and provide new play equipment and replace what's been there for a long time. And then this is for an upgrade to the, I don't know if it's parkour, like the I don't know what it is, but the exercise equipment that's over there and the running just along the Lake Elistero there is in need of upgrade as well. We've got a project submitted for the Solicito Ballpark to light the field, kind of bring some more modern and LED lighting that would reduce the operating costs of that.
As I recall, that was also going to be remote controlled or something. Yeah.
Okay, next slide. There we go. And then at the Capitol site, there were two projects. The first one is for fuel reduction and cleanup. And this was another one that was submitted in 2020, shortly after the city acquired the property. Some of the work I understand has been done, but there's more to do out there. It's a big piece of property. And so this would be for fuel reduction and cleanup. And then the next slide would be to develop a master plan for the entire site to figure out how it's going to be or what the best use for it is. Next one, please. And Monterey Vista at Via Pariso. Here's the second one for the expression swings. And then there's also one for the tennis court striping. So we have conflicting projects on this. And as we were discussing it a couple of weeks ago, figured we would not have to make a decision about that. One of the projects was to improve the striping or make it better for the pickleball folks, and the other one was to get rid of it. So they're actually competing projects. So hopefully we'll know how well the trial program that we discussed earlier tonight is going to work, and we'll have an answer by June when we can see how which way things are going. And again, this will be one project of 200 that are competing for limited funding. So we'll see how the NCIP committee receives this one. Next slide. Thank you. In Oak Newton Park, someone had proposed putting a Frisbee golf putting zone over there, which I think is just a disc golf basket for practice in the area. Next slide. Thank you. Down at Schultz Park, the Foam and Drake, someone would like to see some design and renovation. So I'm not sure exactly what the intent of this is, but we'll learn more as we review the project and solicit input from the public and the presenter of this.
If I could jump in. This
Yeah.
was actually a project submitted on behalf of the Parks and Rec Commission to come up with a design for that corner at Foam and Drake, and have a design and then have it be more of an outdoor space that can be used by the community center, and potentially be something more geared towards the adults who use that center, and an outdoor space for gatherings, but maybe not play equipment, outdoor exercise equipment could be a potential part of it. But yes, this was to finally do something with that back corner.
Thank you for being here, Shannon. Next slide, please. There you go. And here's the Ryan Ranch Disc Golf Course Enhancement. So this is the project that you discussed 10 minutes ago. So this will be taken off because hopefully by the time we vote on it, it will be complete and everyone will be using it. So, but this was submitted in 2020, hoping to find funding to make that work. It's great news that we figured something out to make that work. So thank you. Next slide. Up in Skyline, there's a proposal for a regional fire defense plan. So this would be, I'm sure there will be components of fuel reduction in it, but there will also be, the intent is to be working with Pebble Beach Company, Pacific Grove, City of Carmel, and the County of Monterey to develop a regional plan and then be able to apply for funding and grant opportunities once we have the plan in place. Next slide. This one was on Greenwood Rise. It's just a little island in the middle of a residential neighborhood up in Skyline. That someone submitted a project for landscaping on, and I understand that there's an assessment that's collected to have this done. So this is probably lower on the list of those 200 projects of things that will be done, since there appears to be other sources of funding to complete this. Next slide. Variety Park upgrades. One of the projects in earlier was to do a master plan for the park to how to develop it more fully, and this is that. I'm trying to I forget exactly what the proposal is.
So I think part of the plan is also to close off and prevent people from going all the way around the park. And so turn that into like a cul-de-sac where the playground equipment is. And then I don't know, are they planning on replacing the play equipment too? I think as part of the project.
It says activities in the barbecue area, playground could be quite crowded. They wanted to change the, I believe, let's see. Wait for their turn. Preschoolers often seen in the morning. Current ground cover is unhealthy and dangerous. So they'd like to, I think it's wood chip right now. And they were looking for some of the rubbery, the recycled rubber. In one-way street, they're saying provide more parking spaces and keep cars at a safer speed. So those are the things mentioned. The next slide is pickleball, the 6-court complex. So right at the end, just before we went into lockdown, we had, I believe, come here and there was a NCIP project was approved in 2019 to find a location somewhere else in town that wasn't at Via Pariso Park. And the only place that really became viable after looking at different parks and other opportunities throughout town was out here at Ryan Ranch. So this is adjacent to, on the photo on the left, like the top half of it is the big parking lot where the Stinging Jellies were playing their disc golf course. And right now, the lower left, it's light gray in color. It's rectangular, is an area that Public Works uses for storing materials during construction projects. And that area, it's flat. It's actually the best location that we were able to find through the study for a 6-court pickleball complex. And so this is the submitted project. This is to actually design and construct the pickleball courts, since we've identified that this is the best or the most suitable location for it right now.
Will the sound of the pickleball courts interfere with the Stinging Jellies disc golf? I mean, it's not super close, is it?
It's not, that's, well, right there where that red dot is I think it's the first tee. And the way that I heard it pitched earlier tonight was that the baskets are going to be movable. So I don't know if it's going to be a fixed course like it had been before. Once I think that people get far enough away from the pickleball courts, it's going to be, that's a big area. I'd be surprised if it really interfered with them. Maybe right at the beginning and the end when they come back in, they would be able to hear it.
But
People were playing.
Yeah, this area was identified because it's not in a neighborhood. So that is going to solve a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Disc golf is like regular golf. You have to walk the course. And so you're not going to be in one stationary location.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like pickleball. Okay, next slide, please. And then we had a project as well for a tree inventory through all of town. This was submitted by the forester back in 2020. When we spoke with Louis a couple of weeks ago, he thought that we had a lot of this or some of this done. So we'll be investigating this to see whether it's, how much of it is really viable. And next slide. And then this is the Greenbelt fuel reduction. So this is a community-wide project all throughout the town. Louis goes through every year and just works at reducing the, there's a picture of a couple of dead trees up there. It's just getting rid of some of the fuel for the wildfires. So this one comes back every year. We try and get funding for this project. It's well supported by the community. So this one's good. And next slide. So one of the things I realized or discovered at the end of last week after I had submitted all the projects to you all for the agenda tonight was that, oh, we missed two. So there are two projects that are proposed along the rec trail. And one of them is for just a study to look at specifically the congested area between Fisherman's Wharf and the Coast Guard Pier. So right where kind of everyone is. And then the other one is a project to actually stripe the trail into bike and pedestrian lanes to kind of separate it. So if we go to the next slide, it's just a photo of the, the rec trail. That's, well, yeah, so that's the location of it, but it would just be, again, to study what would best work there. If we had additional right-of-way, everyone would love a wider trail and would make a lot more things possible, but we don't have that luxury at the moment. So we'll just be looking for, a best solution to try and please as many people as possible. I don't think it's possible to please everyone over here. And then the next slide, please. This is the last one, is the rec trail delineations. This was from a previous study that had been done about how to separate the bike and pedestrian traffic over here. So my understanding, and I haven't been there in years, but Pacific Grove is this way. So some people like it, some people don't. What I heard is like 50% of the people like it, 50% of the people hate it. So we'll be really, the best thing to do is do the study first and then see what comes of the study and then figure out whether this is really warranted. There will be a lot of community involvement and discussion before something like this, I believe, would be done. So, and that, I believe, is the last slide. Yes. So are there any other general questions? Again, oh, I'm sorry.
We're still struggling with the projects that were funded, but the money was taken away.
Yes.
And there's a lot of those.
Yes. Which I did not discuss this evening.
So the committee will decide whether they're going to throw some of those out or not. I mean, I'm just trying to figure out how they're going to, that's a lot of projects.
It is a lot of projects. You are absolutely correct.
Absolutely go very far.
Yes, it doesn't. And that's the reality of where we are this year. So the committee will be choosing the projects that it feels are most beneficial to the community. And those will be the ones that that council will get recommended toward. But normally I think we make about like 40 to 60 projects, depending on the size of the projects, get approved every year. So if we're in that ballpark, then, probably most of the projects won't be approved. So we might be able to approve, if we can still approve 40 or 60 of them, then there'll still be like 150 of them or so that won't be funded this year.
How much money did they usually have? I'm just curious. Oh, but pre-COVID, how much money did they normally have to spend on projects?
It was about it increased over the years, but I think pre-COVID, I think the last year I was not with the program at that time, but I think it was about similar to 4 million, like 3 to 4 million range.
That's what I was thinking. So it's not that different.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the ones that were already funded are not given any special priority over the new ones.
Correct. That's correct.
So it's a level playing field.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
They had a lot of discussion about that,
There
about
is.
whether they should reconsider defunded projects and maybe have people resubmit projects. But there are some people who felt very strongly about, they have some older projects that they've been waiting for a long time.
Yes.
So there was a lot of discussion about it. And I think they decided to go ahead and take new projects even.
Yes. Yep.
And then reevaluate everything and prioritize everything. So they'll have almost 200 projects.
At least, well, some of them will be combined.
Yeah.
And some of them won't become like viable, I think. But it'll be very close to 200.
Yeah.
So I
And
guess
projects.
I'm recalling in the old days, pre-COVID, that we would go through the parks list and we would prioritize the ones
Right.
we really wanted to strongly support. But there's no way to do that with this many. And I think it's tougher.
correct. You could nominate some people if you would like a Parks and Rec commissioner to go attend the NCIP and advocate. There are some projects that we submitted in 2020 that we felt were priorities, such as Solisto Lights,
Right.
Jackson Field Turf. I can give you that list.
Pickleball. I remember that.
Pickleball.
Yeah, I remember that list.
So you could, pick a representative tonight to go attend the NCIP meetings if you'd like. But we won't see all of the projects again until August. But the idea was that potentially some of the projects that were defunded may not be as interesting to the neighborhoods anymore or necessary. For instance, I think there's one for a restroom, but then there's also a citywide restroom study. So it's like, okay, do we need the restroom study or do we need the restroom? So they're going to kind of evaluate all of those, and maybe some of them are so old they no longer pertain any longer. So if we could potentially take any public comment and then do commissioners questions.
Okay, are there any public comments?
Yes, if anyone in the council chambers would like to make a public comment on this informative NCIP presentation, please approach the lectern. You have 3 minutes to make your public comment.
My name's Jay Swagerman. I'm one of the ambassadors for pickleball. And pickleball has kept growing even during the pandemic. Crazy, but it is. And I think all of us from day one, Monterey underestimated the growth of pickleball. I remember my first presentation said, we need to do the stuff at Pariso. Long-term, we'll need 3 6-court complexes in the whole big neighborhood. And we're getting close to that, or we'll get close to that when Monterey gets it. Right now, they're playing 4 courts at Carmel. They took over Forest Hill. Sometime in the last year, they approved 4 courts at the new park in Marina. Yeah, and there's playing 4 courts at Wheeler and Seaside, and they're filled. Okay. We were hoping to play some at Monterey College, and that didn't work out for some reason. I don't know why. But anyway, the growth is still there. So I think the 6-court complex is very important. And the day it opens, it'll be full. But partly it'll draw from other areas because it'll be some of the nicer courts. The other courts available are at the Hyatt. The 2 brothers that run the tennis center also own that or run that. They just had a tournament. It wasn't very well organized. Some people got scheduled to play on a court without lights, and it was too late, type thing. They are looking at removing the tennis courts, the tennis from the tennis courts, and making 17 pickleball courts there, I heard, but paying like $5 to $10 a day per person. So it's not free. Okay. I don't know what the city will do when they come out with the 6-court complex. Some of the cities do charge. So that's something I don't know, someday I'll talk to Hans about. So because it's a joint thing for development. But anyway, I just wanted to say it's growing and it'll be a high priority, I think, along with other things. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
And just to join in, MPC is not an option right now because they've closed their campus to all outside groups. They require all their students and teachers to be fully vaccinated. So hopefully in the fall, things might open up at MPC.
And one other comment for Madam Chair was we did have joint meetings with pickleball and disc golf years ago when we first started looking at Ryan Ranch. They'd actually considered doing the project together, you know, with the restrooms and that sort of thing. It's just that with the pandemic, everything that happened and the costs, the disc golf club stuck with it and wanted to continue working on their project. And pickleball, hopefully we can revisit that.
Dare I ask, but is there only room for 6 courts there at Ryan Ranch?
There's probably room for more, but the project that we received was asking for 6 courts. So I'm sure there are other areas that we can look at. What's nice about out there is there's room to install things. And right now it's a level as well. So it's not natural area at the moment. So that helps us all too with the environmental studies and all. So that's, but I'm sure there's more room for, or there's room for additional courts over there as
Okay.
well.
Just wondered.
Mhm.
Has there been any fundraising done by the Pickleball Association to try and support the construction of courts?
No, we really haven't considered it that much. But we did become our own nonprofit so that we can go ask for funds originally. That's why we did that. Okay. And I've been pushing the board members to think about that. I mean, when the whole mediation stuff was going on, they were really against it. Things. And I says, the goal is to get the 6 courts or eventually more and stuff. And you guys got to think about, we got to raise some money and make it a joint thing,
Right.
type thing. But so far we haven't organized that well yet that way. But we'll consider that.
We'll probably have to keep in mind things like parking and restrooms and things like that too. So the larger you make it, just know there'll be other infrastructure that may be needed to support that.
Right.
I can see that Dennis has his hand up.
Madam Chair, we do have some more public comment online as well.
I didn't know that. Any other public comments?
So any other public comment in the council chambers, please approach the lectern.
No, Nate.
Seeing no more public comment in the council chambers, let me look online. We do have one public commenter, Jean Rash. Please unmute yourself. There you go.
Thank you, Nate. I just want to thank Tom Hardy for that excellent presentation. And I could tell by the commissioner's comments that they understand what a difficult year this has been and continues to be at NCIP. I'm talking now as vice chair of NCIP. And it's been difficult to have the $9.3 million defunded. And then it's been difficult to break it to the components of 120 projects that they're going to have to go back into competition. So I can't tell you how great it's been to have Tom Hardy at the helm of NCIP. He's calm, he's such a gentleman, and it's such a relief to have that stability. So thank you, Tom, very much. And it was great to learn about the flat area up at Ryan Ranch. I had not known that square was available. I did go up there and look at the disc ball course and where pickleball might go. And indeed, that is a nice flat area that's already been very disturbed and degraded. So that might be a perfect location. So it was great to learn that the engineers have looked at that closely. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Let me see if we have any other public comments. We have no other public comment.
The public comments are now closed. I'd like to call to the commissioners to see if they have comments. I know Senator McCarthy had his hand up.
Yeah, I actually should have asked Tom earlier. Tom, you mentioned a project at the Monterey Sportscenter pool modernization, and I just wanted to know what the scope of that is. In other words, is that the slide, or is it something different and more?
I could probably start describing it. Yeah, while you're looking.
Covered everything.
That's a lot.
It
I
was
think
just-
it was covering like pool coping, pool plastering, the slide, and the deck, possibly
Mhm.
pool deck. It was pretty encompassing, maybe even saunas. I think they tried to keep it.
Yeah, it's a pretty big project. Water slides, new saunas, new pool deck surface, new plaster coping, a contemporary water slide, rejuvenated natatorium doors and walls, and contemporary saunas, which actually is already listed twice. So yes, saunas are a big thing.
Okay, that's what I wanted to get, as an idea of the scope. So thank you.
Yes. Yep.
Yes, thank you so much for that presentation. There's a lot of projects to go over, so appreciate the detail that you shared. And one question I had was about the expression swing installation at Dennis the Menace and at Via Pariso. And I was curious about whether or not that would be a replacement of existing swings, or if that was installation of an entirely new swing set, like next to the swings that are already there.
That's a great question. And I think we'll have to figure out exactly how that will come about. I think at Via Pariso, there is not anything like that up there now. So I think it would be a new installation there, is what I recall Louis saying the other week. But at Dennis the Menace, I don't know if it will be a new, we'll find out. At this point, too early to say.
Okay, thank you.
Are there
Sorry.
other commissioners?
I think in some places it's removing one of the regular swings and replacing it with an expression swing. You have to have a certain amount of feet around swings. And so sometimes it's not possible to put a new swing structure. It's more like removing an existing swing and putting that in its place. Like just one swing, like the traditional U-shaped.
Commissioner Schmidt, you have your hand up.
I do. And forgive my scattered question. But I found the list. I appreciate the list, and I appreciate Tom Hardy, his excellent presentation. But I'm curious, throughout this process of picking what the NCIP is going to choose to move forward with, how is it presented for the public to engage in each one of these projects? Or is it a public forum such as we're doing? Or are they able to go online, look at projects, make feedback constantly throughout this process?
Yeah,
How does that work?
absolutely. Actually, so we will be holding public meetings. We have 2 scheduled. Because there's so many projects, we split them in half. So we're looking at the first half of the neighborhoods in the first half, and the second half, and all of the community-wide projects in the second half. So there's going to be about 100 that we'll be looking at the first meeting, then 100 the second meeting. Our meetings begin next week, and we'll be focused on making sure that all the commissioners understand what the projects are, the committee members, the NCIP representatives, understand the projects, and really can explain them to the people in their neighborhoods and things. It's all public. It's just like this meeting. You can watch it online. Our meeting will be held. It'll be a hybrid meeting, just like this one as well. So you can submit comments via email. You can submit them in person at the meetings. Once we get through all of the projects, explaining them to the committee members, then we're going to have another meeting for the first half of the projects, and a separate one for the second half of the projects, just for public input, so people can come and advocate for the projects that they want to do. So it's entirely a public process. There will be a lot of input. I expect to be late on several nights in the next couple of months.
And we have traditionally had 1 or 2 commissioners attend those meetings to advocate for the parks projects that we really want to see funded.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Good.
that's something we can do if someone is willing to do so.
I hear you. Great. Well, thank you.
I know that Ellen and Lacey have done it in the past.
Yeah.
Other comments from commissioners? And I really appreciate the committee because that they have a lot of work ahead of them.
It's a great committee because people are so passionate about, I mean, they've spent hours and hours over the years, like fighting for these projects and finally getting them approved, and to, you know, it was gut wrenching to have them defunded.
Yeah.
And to have to go through it again. So there's a lot of emotions that are involved in all of this, but we'll make it through again. It's a lot of work, but it's fun to work with people who really care about it, and it benefits the whole city too. In the end, it's all good.
It is.
Yeah.
Just wish there was a bigger pot of money.
Over time, yeah, we'll catch up.
Okay, bring those visitors back to Monterey. Any other comments from commissioners? So I guess one of the things would be if someone would like to attend the public meetings to advocate for particular projects. I think it'd be a great idea.
I can do some of them. What I heard was that there's informational meetings and advocacy meetings.
Right. And
And I think perhaps going to the advocacy meeting might be most appropriate.
I will check with the chair and vice chair, but it may be that at the beginning of the process, it might be great to hear from what the Parks and Rec committee, what the priorities are. That would be helpful, I think, as we begin to review them.
I guess what I'm remembering is we had a priority list in 2020 of the projects that we were
Right.
supporting.
Mm-hmm.
And that might be useful to send the committee to discuss.
Or
I think there's 7, if I'm catching all of them that we might have nominated in 2020.
That's what I'm thinking.
I'll have to double check, but it's the Sportscenter pool modernization, the stage structure at El Estero Park, the Jacks Park infield turf, the play equipment at the El Estero Park Center, the park course at El Estero, the ballpark lighting at Solicito, the Schulte Park design is the ones I'm thinking are the ones we submitted for Parks and Rec.
And I thought, well, at the time we were supporting the pickleball feasibility study, but it sounds like that's already been done.
Yes.
So there was a rough design. I don't remember if Max Reeser did the design with the 6 courts, and we identified the location, and now would be a 6-court complex. And I don't think we submitted that project.
But I guess I'm speaking as me as commissioner, I would support that.
Okay.
I second that support.
Okay.
So perhaps we could start with a list and
Send that to, when we send that to the NCIP committee
Yes.
as ones that
That'd be
we
great.
would, as a commission, we would like to see funded based on what we've already voted on.
Yes. And I'm like, should I say it? But really what you want to do, I think, is look at the projects that were defunded as well. So we have those from just the 1 year, but in addition to those, there's probably twice as many that.
Oh, that's right. We don't have that
Yes.
list.
So,
Yes. Yeah.
And I think tonight, though, was also to just the 35 that are submitted, do we think they comply with the Parks and Rec master plan? I think if you can all vote for that you feel like all of the projects that were submitted are in line with Parks and Recreation related projects.
Got it.
And also, if you have someone or some 2 commissioners who want to be kind of the liaisons with NCIP, that would be great.
Okay.
And then, yes, the other 120 projects, that would be a challenge to go through tonight and
Yes.
decide which ones you want those to be a priority.
Right.
Yeah.
There, I think there were, well, I think there were about 33 from the 120 that were parks related.
Okay. Is it possible we could get that list sometime in the next month
Oh, yes.
before the public hearings occur?
I think the first public hearing is next week, so.
Yes, but I can get it to you. Well, if you want to wait. I can
The
get-
public hearing is next week? Did I hear
For
that?
NCP.
It
Yeah.
begins, yes,
Again.
the
Okay.
NCIP.
Yeah.
So,
But of the 35 we looked at tonight, I think we're now looking at like 8 projects that ERC would support.
Right. Okay.
I think that's where we're at.
But if we could get the list, that would be great. And I'm going to volunteer myself to go too.
Okay. Great.
I have the list
Okay,
for you.
so I guess we do need to vote as a commission as to whether these projects meet the master plan. So would Commissioner care to make a motion about that?
I've got a question, and that is usually when we do that, the staff has done a study of those projects and has looked at the master plan and advised us that they conform with the master plan. And I don't know if that step has been done yet.
Louis and Karen did that. And we, I think, agree that 35 are fine. There is a little bit of a concern, I think, about Oak Newton and the disc golf putting, just because is that potential hazard with someone throwing like a disc golf.
That's it.
You know.
Oak Newton Park. That's the only one I would be concerned
Yeah,
about.
depending on the
knowing
location of
how
it.
much
Right.
that park is used and how many kids are running around in it.
Yep. And then there's a lot of dogs and
Yes.
it's very, very popular with their barbecues and bounce houses. It's one of the most popular locations for that. Brandon and Sarah would know that. right?
And I know because I live on that street.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So,
Okay, so just to confirm then, the staff has gone through that process, and if we vote, then we're relying on you folks to tell us it's consistent with the master plan.
yes.
Yeah, I think you guys are kind of like our double check, make sure we didn't miss anything.
Well, usually the staff has the expertise on it, so that's why I'm asking, because we didn't go through that. But anyway, thank you.
Yeah, this has been an expedited process this year.
I think it was a short timeline for submission as I
Yeah, and it was a
recall.
short timeline for us to review and then get ready as well.
So with that in mind, are the commissioners okay with taking a vote or having a motion? We need a motion first on whether or not we agree that the parks submitted projects are consistent with the master plan.
Can we move that they are consistent with the master plan except for that one?
The Oak Newton Park one.
Yeah,
I don't-
since it was a little iffy.
The disc golf one
Oak Newton.
or Oak Newton?
Disc golf.
That one, the
The Oak
one,
Knoll.
Oak Newton to have a
Oak
disc golf.
Is it Oak Knoll or Oak
putting-
Newton? Oak Knoll.
It's Oak Newton.
Oak
Oak
Newton.
Newton? Oh,
We
Oak
could
Newton.
eliminate, I would prefer to eliminate that.
And I think they can do that even if it's not consistent with the plan. Like even if it's consistent with the plan, are they permitted to
And-
not
and-
support it?
Yeah, and now now with the potential disc golf location, maybe there is no need for a putting, because there will be
Right.
a lot of options for disc golf.
So we can vote
yeah.
that it's consistent, but we don't have to support it, is
Mhm.
what you're saying.
I think so.
Okay. I don't know.
Is that your understanding too, Tom? Okay.
Well, we can put it to a vote.
Yeah, let's put it to a vote.
Sorry, before we do that, I just have one other one that I wanted to ask about. And that was the Ferranti Park upgrades. It was noted that Jeff Krebs had presented those upgrades and they'd been approved, way back when. But some of those things I wasn't sure about, like the unhealthy wood chips versus rubber and things like that. I'm not sure in our master plan if we're going in the direction of replacing more wood chips with rubber. Is that something that is the goal?
Louis may know more about that.
I can comment on that. So we don't use unhealthy wood chips. We use playground chips. They're specifically designed for playgrounds. That is just one person's view, thinking that they're regular wood chips that we use.
Mm-hmm.
all of our chips now we've replaced all the sand, which was unhealthy, with playground chips in every park. And that is certified fall protection, and it's what is recommended in parks. So that I think where we're getting to a problem is trying to figure out what's in the parks master plan and what's not. I would suggest just let the projects vet themselves and get voted on. And I don't think there's anything here that's a major violation of the parks master plan. So I would just let them get vetted and voted on, and then we can always have some recourse at the end. So, you know.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'm chiming in with Louis because I'm uncomfortable voting there consistent with the master plan without looking at the master plan and looking at the project. That's my concern.
Yeah.
Not that they're the great projects. That's not the issue.
It's a matter of interpretation on whether they fall in with the master plan or not. But I think we can make arguments to it after if they're voted on and we don't like the project or we think there's problems with the project. I think we can make comments and make adjustments to the project after that. So that's the way I would go on it.
What about for the commissioners that are going to be attending the meeting and advocating for certain projects that they think are of high priority? I mean, they're going to have to know whether those things fit in with the master plan and are a priority.
So in my experience with the NCIP, and it goes back quite a long way, the best time to do that is the advocacy meetings, the night of the voting, or the one where it gets really serious, because there's a lot of kind of discussion that maybe really doesn't have a lot of meat to it in the earlier.
Which nights are those?
So that'd be the two meetings that are kind of before the voting meetings. Those would be later on in the year, and the voting meetings.
Not in May.
That's Tom. I don't know. When do you plan on having the vote? Is it in August?
The vote is June 16th. So we're squashing it in. The first meeting for public comment is May 19th. And the second one is scheduled for June 2nd. Those to be Thursday evenings.
So those two would be the ones I would suggest to go to with your suggestions.
I'll not be able to attend the May meeting, so I don't think I'm a very good quality candidate for attending both of them, any of them.
I also want to just say,
And that's the only.
sorry.
Go ahead, Lindsay.
From previous experience working with the NCIP, our comments initially with things that we knew we wouldn't support were important to them. They wanted to know that up front before projects got farther down the line. So it is helpful. We can, if there are things that we definitely know that we don't want to report to let them know.
So, and then just to add, the 120 projects that were previously defunded, we have already gone through the process of making sure they're compliant with the Parks and Rec Master Plan. So those have been, vetted by all of you. So I don't think we actually need to go through and say, are they vetted or not? Maybe, are any of those still a priority for Parks and Rec Commission? That might be something else. And then the other thing is projects can change in this whole process. Like the person who submits the project can make changes up until voting night. So what you see here now may not be actually what gets approved by NCIP. So that's one thing to keep in mind.
And I'm correct too, that the ones we talked about before, those were vetted too, the 2020 projects.
The 2020 projects were reviewed by us because we wanted to submit them.
Right.
But they had not yet been reviewed by NCIP. And now this is our chance to say 35 projects are Parks and Rec related, conform to the master plan. And hopefully now we can advocate for the projects that we submitted back in 2020.
Right.
My experience in working with NCIP is that there was a little fatigue factor in thing over and over again about what we liked and what we didn't like. I went to a lot of the meetings a few years back, and I could just tell that they had already heard what I had to say, and that just expressing it clearly on voting night, like Louis was saying, seemed to offer the most benefit. The other concern is that both you and I are going to be out of this, out of the state all of June. So neither of us could do that.
I could do the May meeting. I can make. That's not a problem. But the
May
June one,
19th.
yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any commissioner who can attend the May or the advocacy meetings and the voting meetings? Maybe not the evaluation meetings that are coming up next week, but
Yes, the advocate, those meetings where people are going to advocate for their projects. I don't know what I was
yeah.
in May and June, those would be the best ones to come to. On voting night, there is probably minimal public comment, and it's just really all about voting. So we will accept public comment, but it's really, we got to get through the 205 projects to vote on each one. So we're expecting it to be.
I don't know if you guys have
Tweak.
seen the new process, because the old
Yeah.
process, remember, there's a lot of advocacy that would go on, and they'd have posters and they'd put stickers, and it was the whole thing. But now there's a new voting process where you actually hold up your paddle with a number 1 to 10.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And
each-
it goes, trying to get through. So each neighborhood actually gives their vote for each thing. And Louis, I think, has been there as well, and he could elaborate if needed, but it's pretty brisk pace.
Yes. Yeah.
So just to be clear, the advocacy meetings are May 19th and June 16th. Is that correct?
June 2nd.
June second.
June 2nd.
June 2nd and
Yes.
May 19th.
What time are these?
They start at 6 p.m. On those evenings, they're Thursday evenings.
And are they going to be a hybrid or?
Yes.
I can attend.
Right now, yes. Yes.
I would like to attend.
Great.
Yeah. Unless by chance COVID
Terrific.
becomes a non-issue and we're fully in person without hybrid, but
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. That would be wonderful if you could, because we can
Yeah.
cover May, but we can't do June.
No, I would like to.
Okay.
Put me down.
All right.
And just in the interest of full disclosure, so for both of those meetings on May 19th and June 2nd, we've tentatively scheduled a follow-up in case we don't get through all the comments the first evening. So
Tom, are those two meetings going to be separated by neighborhoods?
yes, the first meeting, so on May 19th will be the first half of the neighborhoods. That would be Aguajito Oaks through New Monterey. And then on June 2nd, we'll be discussing Oak Grove through Skyline, plus all of the community-wide projects.
Great.
So back to whether or not we are voting as to whether these projects meet the requirements of the master plan. Are commissioners comfortable with thinking about that, making a motion?
Yes.
That Sid is making a motion that we approve the projects that have been submitted as they meet the master plan. Do I have a second?
Second.
Sid, did you make the
Approve.
second?
Christian.
made the
First.
and then Lacey might be trying to make the second.
I can't tell.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I'll second it.
Lisa. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? Sid, okay,
And this is Dennis. I'm going to abstain.
okay.
So just to be clear, we had 4 commissioners of 3, 1 abstain and 1 opposed.
I think that's
Uh-huh.
what I saw. Okay. All right. And Tom, thank you for being with your patience and answering all our questions.
Oh, absolutely. It's
And-
going to go on for months. And thank you. You
And-
can see how complicated it is. And I'm sorry it's kind of spilling over to tonight's discussion, but that's where we are this year. So
Fine.
thank you for understanding good questions. And
You'll see us in May.
yes, yeah, great. We'll see you. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you. So we're at staff comments. Karen.
I just have 2 quick comments. One very important announcement, and that is Diane Tannehill. This may be her last meeting with us as our administrative assistant. And she is training our new administrative assistant, Brandon Stetton-Benz. And he just was hired in April, and we're really excited to have him on board. And we're very sad to be losing Diane, but I'm so thrilled that she's staying with the city. So I know she's only a phone call away, and I know where she works, so I can go stop by her office if I need to. I know she doesn't like to be the center of attention, but I couldn't let tonight go by without recognizing you. And thank you for everything that you've done and for your continued training to our new staff and helping us make that transition. So thank you so much, and welcome, Brandon. Thank you for being here, and thank you for choosing us. That's really great. And then I also wanted to recognize Kathy Panetta. We'll officially thank her for her service, but she did turn in her resignation. She just has a lot of commitments right now, so she is unable to continue her stand, and so she has resigned. And we will be sure to officially thank her in a meeting in the very near future. And thank you to the whole Parks and Rec team for always helping us get through. We're small, but we're mighty, and we're really still doing some heavy lifting, especially with summer right around the corner. So thank you to everyone.
Anna.
So we see. So yes, we are losing Diane, but we will be calling her frequently, I have a feeling. Thank you very much. Your eyes got big there, but we'll hopefully be not too much bother. But she's been very helpful in training Brandon for us. And we're very excited to have Brandon with us. And so he will be a big part of our team. And we're looking forward to that. He's still working part-time in Public Works, finishing out some assignments there, part-time with us, and then hopefully full-time with us in May, because we will be very, very busy with summer registration. And so we have to give kudos to Sarah. She's jumped in to really help pick up some of the load, and Nate Coda, who is our voice in the sky tonight. So we're just, we are small, mighty. We're kind of stretched pretty thin. We did have our bunny hop photo op. There is some photos on our social media. We will have that as part of our update. That was just Saturday. So that was a team effort as well. We had a great turnout. It was a very good event, lots of happy faces and kids. It was great to just interact with the public, which we don't get to do as often as we used to. We are looking to expand that next year, potentially move it on to Colton Hall lawn, maybe some face painting, the wheelie mobile. We feel like that is kind of the direction that we're getting feedback from the community, rather than a egg hunt that's over in less than a minute and takes a lot of effort and planning, but it's over. Oh yes. Thank you. And over in less than a minute. So we're just going to try and expand that and really make that more of an event. And our bunny is just the best bunny out there. So we gotta give kudos to our bunny. And so we are still in the process of recruiting for summer. That has been a challenge. It is very challenging to find part-time employees who are willing to make the commitment for the summer. And I think everywhere they're seeing it's hard to find part-time employees. So it's a challenge to us, and that will be the determining factor on what programs we are able to offer this summer. I feel very good about Camp Kinsabi with the staff that we have and the people we are interviewing. as well as the playground program, but we are very challenged with finding qualified staff. And so anyone who you can suggest apply would be great. We just are really needing to get the word out as much as you can. Can't have a program, you can't have kids without the staff. So I think that's a challenge, just no matter where you are. And then we hope to open summer registration at the end of April. And we're getting lots of phone calls, and they're going to start seeing some ads in the paper for all of that. And so we will have hopefully a full slate of programs, whether they're staff taught or contractually taught. We are planning for quite a bit. Campion Sabi, Whispering Pines, the playground program, gymnastics camp, Lego camp, field sports is going to have like football, track and field, basketball. I mean, we're going to have the month of basically from the first week of June to the end of July with lots of options for the community. And then the sports center is going to have sports camp. So there's going to be a lot of opportunities there. And then, yeah, that's basically it. We're just really trying to get summer pulled together and get Brandon on board. And our registration software is going to take a little bit longer to get going. We have to work with our payment processor. We have to make the switch to a payment processor. No matter what software we chose, we were going to have to pick a new payment processor that is PCI compliant. And so that's just taking a little bit longer. And we've got the system, we just can't take payments. So
you think it'll be ready by the end of April?
So the software?
Yeah.
No, we're probably going to have to push that out. So we're going to take registration in our current system.
Okay.
But yeah, we're looking forward to getting that squared away. It's going to take another heavy lift with our city attorney and our finance division. But we're moving in the right direction. It's just until we get that all squared away, we just can't use the software without being able to take payments.
Right.
Yeah, it's a critical piece. So yeah, that is basically it. We brought back ceramics at Hilltop. It's full with a wait list. So it's running Monday, Wednesday evenings. We have a very, very qualified instructor. So that was all Rachel Dice who brought that program back. So we are, things are happening. Things are every month we're adding to the load. So we're really doing well. Yep.
I don't know if Andrea's on the phone call on the Zoom or
she's
not.
off this week.
Andrea is off today, but I can give you a quick highlights if you like. I know it's been a long meeting, but sports camp will be on the slate for the summer. And we're so excited that we'll have Ryan Nunez making sure all of that happens for us. We're also trying to beef up all of our swimming lessons and adding more swimming lessons to our docket. So we're very excited about that. People are coming back. We're starting to see people of all ages. I love seeing everybody on all 3 courts in the gymnasium. So that's really exciting. We're also working very closely with our finance department and our public works department to get some maintenance improvements off the ground. And so hopefully you'll start seeing some work getting done and some things getting updated and looking fresher and newer and more modern. So once we get that list coordinated and collaborated with finance and with the Public Works Department, we'll see some things going on there. We also have a Prop 68 grant for $177,000 that we received from the state of California. So we're also prioritizing projects to use that money as well. There's certain requirements that are expected, so we have to make sure that the projects meet those requirements, and we're using that funding to augment other city funding as well to get those maintenance projects completed.
That's terrific. Louis, what's up?
Well, Parks is we're starting our green belt fuel reduction. So that's starting early this year because of the no rain. Other than that, we're just moving along as usual. So all's good.
Big success.
Yay.
Yes,
Yeah, cutting day was huge.
it was good.
Even in
Got some rain, but it was good.
Unbelievable. How many people were there?
I'd say a couple hundred.
At least.
Mhm.
So comments. Want to start here, Ellen?
Well, it's really a joy to be back seeing everyone. Even if we're hybrid, we've got a toe in the door. And you know, kudos to all of you in Parks and Rec for hanging in through the roughest patch you've probably ever been through. I hope it doesn't happen again. And, you know, I hope that you're not stretched. I know you're stretched too thin, but I hope that there is some relief in sight for that, because boy, you deserve every break you can, every, you know, pedicure and massage and tropical vacation. Anyway, thank you. That's what I'm trying to say.
Dennis, Commissioner McCarthy, comments?
Just same thing, just kudos to staff for the work you're doing, you know, with the reduced staff. Impressive, you know, keep it up, and hopefully we're gonna, you know, hit the ground running at some point and gear back up. And that's really it. So thanks.
Commissioner Schmidt?
Yeah, I'd say the light at the end of the tunnel feels like we're coming out of it and back to normal. I hope to be at the next meeting there, and I look forward to being part of the NCIP meeting. So well done. It was a longer meeting this night, but it was a lot of info, a lot of really good info. So I appreciate it all.
Going to the NCIP meetings will be a real eye opener.
Yes.
I can
Look
tell
forward to
you. Commissioner Spangler.
Yeah, I wanted to thank Louis for the park improvements at Deerflats Park. The sidewalk tripping hazards are gone, and there's some wonderful new landscaping there. So that looks wonderful. Thanks to your crew for that. I think the whole city is grateful that you are starting on the fuel reduction. That's a really big thing, and we're glad that's happening.
And Commissioner Crampton. Sid, are you still with us?
I am. I've got nothing really to add. I just want to add my thanks to everyone that's involved at Parks and Rec. I think they've just done a stellar job under the most extreme circumstances, and I thank you profusely.
Just my comments. I am hoping that you're getting more staff. I'm hoping that's happening.
All three divisions have requested more staff, but we won't know if they're approved just yet. Right now, the finance department and the city manager's office is meeting with each and every department and taking in consideration everyone's requests. And then, of course, also looking at bargaining groups and what their requests will be. And then also following up with what our budget is looking like as far as income with sales tax and other income sources, and then seeing what they're able to approve. So we haven't been given an indication just yet on what positions will be approved, but we have requested more help.
Okay. Because I think I'm worried that you guys are going to burn out. That's why. I worry about that. Anyhow, thank you so much for everything you do. And Diane, I will miss you terribly because you keep me going straight. And I guess I will call this meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Thanks. Good to see you.
Recording stopped.